I'm Marny Nesher, publisher of the Central New York Business Journal, and welcome everyone to our latest CNY Business Journal interview series focusing on WISE success stories. And WISE stands for Women Igniting the Spirit of Entrepreneurship, otherwise known as the WISE Women's Business Center, located in Syracuse. Before we begin, please continue to stay up to date by viewing our website daily at CNYBJ.com regarding the news and information for Central New York businesses. Now I'd like to welcome Laura Thorne, owner of Laura Thorne Consulting. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Marny. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So why don't you tell us about your consulting business? What is it and what exactly do you offer?
Thanks. Well, first, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and speak about my business. It's always super helpful to have the opportunity to do that. So as you said, my main business is Laura Thorne Consulting. I'm a strategy and execution consultant, which means that I basically help people with their big picture vision and then bringing those things to life through projects, leadership development, and whatever else they might need to get them to the finish line. And so I deliver workshops, online courses. I have a workbook. I work with companies with their strategic planning facilitation. Sometimes I'm helping them build a program. Sometimes I'm helping them get their website updated. So I really kind of do I guess in other industries you would call it turnkey, but I kind of help people with whatever it is they might need as long as it aligns with their strategy and making a bigger impact.
Okay, so what made you decide to become a consultant? What led you in that direction?
So it's funny you asked that with the word direction. I don't think that direction was something I really had much of until the last couple of years. And so I grew up just interested in nothing but photography and art. And so I spent my first couple of years in college doing photography and design. I never had any aspirations to be a consultant. In fact, I grew up sort of watching Kids in the Hall where they make fun of business people and men in suits. And I sort of am an anti-business person, an anti-authority, which I think ironically makes me a better consultant because I just want business to be better. I've worked for horrible companies. I have bought things from horrible companies, and I want businesses to do better, and I have the knowledge and resources and tools to help them be better. So I ended up getting here because I spent my first career job was doing programming. I actually moved to Ireland to implement a program that I had designed way back in 2000. And then 2001, the economy tanked and I moved back to Florida where I grew up. And I decided I want to work outdoors. So I got a degree in biology. I spent 10 years as an environmental scientist. And in my job throughout that, I always volunteered and raised my hand. So at some point, they asked for someone to go to Malcolm Baldrige training so we could win an award for excellence. And that is kind of where consulting fell in my lap. I worked side by side with our consultant, and I was really able to see wow, all of the programming, the program management, I was helping with strategic planning, doing employee engagement plans, and I was like, I can really see how all of this relates. Even I've been designing web pages for decades, and even just going, wow, I can help you make a more powerful website because now I know how strategy and vision aligns with even your website. So that's kind of how it came to be, and I love it.
So what year did you end up starting your business?
I started in 2015. So as I said, I was working for a local government agency in Florida, and I was there for 10 years. I loved my job. I was a seagrass expert, our habitat restoration manager. I had started a GIS intern program with students, and I was our artificial reef coordinator. It was the coolest job ever, but working for the government and my creative vision, and I know I didn't want to stop at 5 o'clock when the bell rings in government and they all sort of go home. I want to keep going till they're, and not till the job's done. I want to create more work. So I just reached a point where it was like, I have outgrown this. And so in 2015, I resigned and I started 3 businesses at that time.
And at what point did you make it to Syracuse or Central New York?
Yeah, I moved to Syracuse in 2017, which I can't believe is almost 4 years already. And so after I resigned, I spent a few months on the road. I was living in a RV, so a 35-foot motorhome, and I drove from Tampa, Florida to Yosemite. That was sort of my recharge and take back my confidence and rebuild. And I thought like, oh, I'm going to start my businesses on the road, and this will be my remote work life. And it was a lot harder to actually do any work that way than I thought. So I did that for a few months, and then I was starting to work things out in Florida, and then met my current boyfriend. We met in Florida a long time ago. He lives in Syracuse now. So we long distanced for a while, and then it was like, you know what, it's time for change. So I moved here 2017.
Relocated in 2017.
Fascinating. So going back to your consulting, who would be your ideal client?
So that's a great question too, and one, of course, to get asked all the time. And I don't know that I have an ideal client as far as like business size or, industry. I do tend to work in what I call the STEAM environment, which for me stands for startups, technology, environmental, arts, and manufacturing, because I have little pieces of my background in all of those spaces, and I love those spaces, and they're all economic drivers. So I tend to work with companies in those industries or spaces, and then really it's more about timing and mission. So I like to work with companies who want to make an impact. I use a framework called the Role Model Way, and it's all about business and leadership through being the role model and learning from role models. And this is my desk cat here joining us for the interview. Sorry. He likes to make an appearance every once in a while.
That's cute.
There's no getting rid of him. I've tried. And so, so as long as the company is ready for consulting and their mission is to make a bigger impact, I'm in. I really love working with those companies.
So what are you most proud of?
So I love this question too. It really made me reflect and think about, because I'm proud of a lot of things. But I think the biggest one was having the courage to resign from my amazing, awesome job. My family was like, "Are you nuts?" On paper, it looks like, wow, and it even was, I admit, was a very, very cool job. But I was happy to hand it over to Chris Pratt, who was my he was not my subordinate, but he worked for me. I supervised him, and he's still working in the position today, taking good care of that role. So it's almost like handing my baby over to somebody else who's taking good care of it. But I'm just really proud that I had the courage to make that leap and to see what would happen. I wouldn't be here with you today. I wouldn't even be living in Syracuse. I wouldn't be working my own hours and just really creating my own vision for myself if I hadn't had the courage to do that.
So tell me why you connected with WISE and how did you hear about them?
Yeah, so WISE is awesome. I have been working with WISE since probably 2018. It did take me a little bit of time to get connected with them. I learned about them early on, but I hesitated to meet with them, not for any other reason, but I just no one, had told me like, you need to be there. So Lisa Sears of Brass Rings she was already doing workshops with WISE, and her and I connected. When I first moved here, I had this wonderful networking strategy and was meeting all kinds of new people. And when I met Lisa, she recommended that I do try to get in touch with WISE, and I'm really glad that she did. So thanks to Lisa for that.
So are you a certified women-owned business, or are you thinking of becoming certified?
Yeah, so that's a great question too. I did look into that when I was living in Florida when I first started the companies, and I also started applying for things with RFPs and with the government and stuff. But I learned early on that it wasn't really going to be the place where I was going to generate business and going after RFPs and working with the government stuff. So I decided that was not really at the right time for me. And even right now, I still, my work comes from word of mouth and from ads and just really getting in front of people. So I haven't really looked at that.
Finally, if somebody would like to connect with you, what would be the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, so I'm an open book. There's a lot of ways. I mean, first and foremost is probably LinkedIn. Just connect with me on there, send me a message. But I also run a book club with Lisa Sears called the High Impact Reading Challenge. And we have all our books laid out for the year. You can join for free. We meet once a month to talk about the book. So it's a great way to meet us, but also to connect with other people. It's for people who like to binge read leadership and professional development books, but don't stop to absorb and put the ideas into practice. So it's really great. I also have the EPR podcast, which is Environmental Professionals Radio. So you can tune into that and reach out to me that way. I'm on Twitter, Clubhouse, just about anything. So if you can find me, and of course, Laura Thorne Consulting, I kept it simple, so it's easy to find me that way. So happy for anybody to reach out.
Great. Okay, lots of different ways. Perfect. And we'll make sure that we add in the website to the bottom of the video as well. So thank you so much. I enjoyed our time together.
Thank you.
And everyone, thank you for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you next time as we continue to meet more women entrepreneurs from WISE. Thank you.